The Carolina Hurricanes had a weekend of two extremes in games 2 and 3 against the New Jersey Devils in their second round series. We will be breaking all of that down in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes, along with our brand new co host.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today I am joined by my brand new co-host, Andrew Schnittker. How you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing great, Jared. It's great to finally be joining the Locked On family. I'm so excited to be a part of this show and, be bringing the Hurricanes discussion to the people every day. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and we have a lot to talk about today as the Hurricanes had a weekend of two extremes. We're going to start off with game two, the positive side of things. Game two was a great team game. The Hurricanes kicked the Devils' butt in this game. It was 6-1 was the final score, and we knew the Devils would come out with a lot of energy in this game. You knew that after getting embarrassed in game one. And the Hurricanes, they came out with a lot of energy, just like the Devils. They matched the Devils. The Devils did kind of own the first 10 minutes of the first periods. The Hurricanes had the second half. But this was a very fun and entertaining game, that's for sure.
Yeah, game two, I've covered the Hurricanes for a number of years. I've been with Canes Country. Back before that, I was with my student newspaper. In the time that I've been covering them, I don't think, other than maybe game three against Washington in 2019, I don't know that I've seen them have a better game. Just given the stakes, being game two of a second round playoff series, trying to go up 2-0. And like you mentioned, they had that first 10 minutes, had to kill the 5-on-3. Frederick Anderson made some really good saves. And once the Hurricanes settled in, they just dominated the game. I mean, they dominated 5-on-5. The power play looked good. The penalty kill was sterling once again. You were getting contributions from guys up and down the lineup, including some guys, that were maybe a little bit quieter in the first round that you needed to see more from. I'm not sure that game, and really as a whole, the first two games at home could have gone better for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, they had a tremendous first two games. You talk about guys, stepping up. We had, first of all, the physicality. The Hurricanes were laying some massive hits in that game with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Jesper Fast, and Seth Jarvis being standouts in that. Kotkaniemi and Fast, having some highlight reel hits they were laying out. And then second period comes around. You talk about guys stepping up. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, he broke down the doors in that second period. How power play goal to start off the period, and with the Hurricanes power play being the Jekyll and Hyde that it is, of never knowing what you're going to get, for it to come out so strong and for him to be stepping up as well, that was absolutely fantastic. And then another even strength goal as well. Then you also had 4 goals in this period, with Jordan Stahl having an absolutely beautiful goal, kind of turning back the clock on that one there. And then one that I think a lot of folks kind of got frustrated with was that Brady Shea goal. He had a really good game, him and Brett Pesce as well, but his goal was called back. I really don't agree with that. I kind of felt like Seth Jarvis was pushed into the goalie there, but it really was a non-factor because that really fired up the Hurricanes. Martin Necas, another guy, kind of wanted to step up. He came back over and put the puck in the back of the net for the Hurricanes there.
Yeah, and I think, Martin Necas is a guy that you've wanted to see a little bit more from in these playoffs, especially given the guys that they're missing, with a guy like Andrei Svechnikov, a guy like Teuvo Teravainen. So that was good to see. And yeah, I mean, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, you get in the playoffs, you have guys out, or you're going to have games where your top guys are going to get shut down. You're going to need that production. up and down the lineup. So I think for the Hurricanes to see that from him and for him to get going was really big. And I agreed with you on the Shea goal. I thought that the Devils kind of drove Seth Jarvis into the net. But the nice thing to see, and Seth Jarvis has had a really, really good postseason. And I think a big part of that is he's been taking the puck to the net and driving to the net really, really well and really, really frequently. And I think that's a good thing to see if you're the Hurricanes. And that's a way, if you're Seth Jarvis, that you're going to make good things happen.
Yeah, he's really had a standout postseason so far. Been really, really good for the Hurricanes, and you can't really ask more of him. He's smallest guy on the ice most of the time, and he's getting the puck to the back of net, like you said. It's bringing physicality, and he's having a really, really good postseason. But one of the negatives with this game too was in the third period. Yeah, I almost said Jesper Kotkaniemi again. Shane Gosper, he had a pretty nasty turnover that ended up leading to the lone New Jersey Devils goal in that game too. And that's kind of been an issue with the playoffs as a whole. Some poor puck management, but thankfully with this game, the Hurricanes played such a good game as a whole that kind of really didn't play into it as much as it would here in game 3. Another guy that had a great game, really great postseason as a whole has been Jordan Martinook. He was all over the ice in game 2, and he was finally rewarded with that breakaway goal in the third period, and very much deserved. He's again had a great postseason, had a great game 2, again, all over the ice, doing everything the Hurricanes could possibly want him to do, really elevating his play. And that's kind of been a story all season long with him. I kind of felt like getting put on waivers at the beginning of the off season. It really kind of lit a fire under him. It's also is it a contract year for him? I don't remember.
No, he's got 1 year. He's got 1 year left next year.
Okay, I knew it was getting close, but it kind of felt like that lit a fire under him. And also another thing is he's actually healthy, 100% for once. That hasn't been the case for a while, but yeah, he's had a career year this year, and to see that carry over into the postseason, see him put the team on his back and really try to motivate them. We saw that in game 3 as well, even though that game didn't go the way the Hurricanes wanted to. He's really elevating his play on and off the ice, and that's great. And to see him get rewarded in both games was great. And another thing with game 2 is Sebastian Aho's point streak ended up living on for another game on that Steph Nazing goal at the end of the game. Ended up being 5 games total for that. And he's another guy. He's the top guy now. No Svetch, no Tavo. So for him, to continually be involved in everything, that's great for the Hurricanes, because that's what they need. You at this point in the year, you need your top guys to play like top guys.
Yeah, and I think with the case of Sebastian Aho, I think he's really, elevating even more his reputation. I mean, his performance in the Islanders series, I think, elevated my estimation of him even a little bit, just because he's having to do a lot more carrying now, because he doesn't have a Teuvo Teravainen on his wing to make those passes. He doesn't have an Andrei Svechnikov, to snipe or to drive to the net and create space. There's a lot more that's on him. And so far, I think he has stepped up to that challenge really, really well. Pretty much have seen everything I've wanted to see from him in this postseason. And, that just, I think, continues to raise his profile as a star for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, it's been absolutely great to see from him. And we know he's not going to necessarily get the headlines and whatnot that other players might get, but that's fine. He's going out there, doing his job, putting the Hurricanes in the best possible position they can be to win. Now, like I said, his point streak lived on to 5 games. It did not continue into game 3. And like I said, it was a tale of 2 extremes. This was an overall great team game. And I've said many times this season, this team is at their best when they're playing a team game, when it's guys
Absolutely.
up and down the lineup chipping it. And it's not just falling to one or two guys. Everyone is doing it. Guys that you don't normally expect, like Jordan Martinook, to be putting the puck in the back of the net. He's doing that. He's all over the ice. And that's when this team is at their best. The power play showed up in this game as well. And we see how dangerous it can be when it does show up. Now, on the flip side, game 3 was almost the complete opposite of this game. It was really, really rough, but there were some positives in that game. But again, as a whole, it was not good for the Hurricanes. And we will talk about game 3 right after this. Now, there is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform that can do it all for you. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data in the US. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for the applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievable, powerful hiring platform deserving for 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest in 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Starting now with a $75 sponsored job credit to update your job post at Indeed.com/locked on. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/locked on. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Now, diving into game 3, this was, again, about the complete opposite of game 2. The Hurricanes, we expected the Devils to come out hot. We all kind of expected that. You're going back up to New Jersey. They gotten embarrassed in games 1 and 2. So you knew they'd come out with some fire here. You knew that. But I don't think we really expected just how big of a step back from the Hurricanes we would see. Again, kind of expect the Devils to probably get a win here or in game 4. Kind of expected that. They were on the Hurricanes all season long. They finished 3rd in the NHL for a reason. They are a really good team. The Hurricanes were not going to sweep this series. That was a given. But again, for the Hurricanes to have such a big step back in this game was absolutely wild. It was one of the worst defensive performances we have seen, if not the worst, from them all season long. It was just non-existent. We talk about Brady Shea and Brett Pesce in games 1 and 2 of just how good they had been, elevating their level from round 1, where they're kind of a non-factor. They took a step back to that. They were nowhere to be found. They had a really bad game.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Shea and Pesce a non-factor in game 3. I would call them the very, very wrong kind of factor because, I mean, they were a factor. They were on the ice for, I think it was 5 Devils goals. You saw a couple of plays, some turnovers from them, at least one where Brady Shea, battle behind the net and Jack Hughes just eats his lunch back there. I mean, it was rough, and the thing about the game too is it was kind of like some of the road games last year where the wheels just were off immediately. I was all excited to watch the game. I had my snacks. I'd gotten some of those like frozen soft pretzels that you could cook up. I had those all fixed up. I had some leftover Moe's queso to dip them in. I was settled in for the game. I was all excited, and then
not Chipotle queso.
No, never. And then just boom, the wheels. Like I said, the wheels were just off immediately. I think the Hurricanes were okay for a few minutes. I think Martin Necas hit an early post, and then once the Devils got going, they were going all night. You definitely saw Jack Hughes be much more of a factor in than he was in the first two. And I think him and his line getting kind of awakened is a worrisome thing for the Hurricanes. Now, I do think this is one of those series where the chess match between the coaches, whereas when you have home ice and last change versus when you don't, is going to be really interesting, because you saw in the games in Raleigh when Rod Brind'Amour was able to effectively staple Jordan Stahl to Jack Hughes, and he was a complete non-factor. This game, you don't have that, and the results were what they were. So, yeah, definitely worrisome that things went as poorly as they did to that degree, but also it only counts for one. It only has to count for one. You can't let it beat you more than once. That's kind of, I think sometimes it's a little bit easier to just move on and say, all right, we were terrible, whatever, burn the tape in a game like that where you just get blown out. Whereas like if it was a game that the Hurricanes lost 2-1 and they had 47 shots on goal, those can sometimes stick with you a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree there. And, you talk about, Marty Necas, one thing, with this game was the Hurricanes also had some pretty bad puck luck. They hit the post a lot in this game. And, it felt like, quite often, if, that puck did, especially early on, if it didn't hit the post, didn't hit the crossbar, whatever, maybe we have a bit of a different game. And, you know, yeah, the Hurricanes let in 8 goals. Like you said, this only counts for one game. I did see, I forget who it was mentioned it on Twitter. Devils fans, those 8 goals only count for game 3. It does not count for game 4 and all that. So the Hurricanes definitely just need to regroup today at the practice, watch their tape, figure out what they need to do better, moving forward into game 4. And not all those, it was 8 goals let in, but not all those were on the goalie. That third goal was definitely kind of on Frederik Andersen, or was it the fourth one? I don't even remember. There are so many goals from the Devils.
Were you talking about the Michael McLeod shorthanded goal?
I believe so. Yeah, it kind
of.
Yeah,
I think that was the third one. That's one that he's got to have. Yeah, I mean, I won't say the goaltending was good, because it certainly wasn't. But there were more issues than just that.
Yeah, they were definitely left out to dry. We talk about how good they can be when they play a full complete team game. This was kind of the opposite. No one was on the same page here. And the Aho point streak ended at 5 games. Talk about Shea and Pesci not being good. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, another guy, was one that just kind of took a step back. You already talked about Marty Necas. But looking forward into game 4, there were some positives here. The penalty kill was still really good for the most part. They had 3 shorthanded goals, which isn't something you see very often. And it did feel that the Marty shorthanded goal, that was beautiful. And then the one after the Steph Nason fight, when they were able to notch those 2 shorthanded goals in pretty quick succession, it felt like those really gave the Hurricanes some life, and that they could maybe come back. They could make it a game. But then we had that Jacob Slavin interference penalty that just kind of made no sense. But going forward, or before we go into game 4, what were some of your positives from this game? Because there were a few.
Yeah, I mean, I think the penalty kill and the way that they played shorthanded has got to be one. If you can, the Devils did get a couple power play goals, but if you can sow a little bit of doubt there, I think Sebastian Aho's point streak actually did continue. I think he scored the first goal.
Did he?
For the Hurricanes, like right after it was 3-0, or maybe after it was 4-0.
Let's pull it up real quick. See what? Oh, wrong game. I clicked on the wrong one. Let's look and see where it was at. We can look at all the point scores for the Hurricanes from this game. Yes, it was. It was the
pretty
it was the one after
goal,
the Heischer goal.
Yeah, pretty forgettable. Okay, but at least there's that. You still have him going. You still have Seth Jarvis playing
Mhm.
really, really well. I think Jarvis is a guy who, I mean, this is the case for a lot of players, but I think Jarvis is a guy who really thrives on confidence, especially as a young guy. So I think for
Mhm.
him to keep producing, and have that good mindset going into game 4 is a big thing for the Hurricanes. And then,
Mhm.
the biggest one, Jordan Martinook was probably the Hurricanes' best forward in that game. I mean, he scored the
Yeah.
beautiful shorthanded penalty shot goal, but even more than that, I mean, every time he's on the ice, you mentioned him elevating his game to more of like a pure offensive contributor that we've seen, which he needs to do because I mean, he's with the way things are right now, he's playing in the top 6. He's playing on that line with Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He's out there, making stuff happen every shift. And I think he's the kind of guy with the energy that he can provide and the boost that he can provide, and some of the skill, the underrated skill that he has that
Mhm.
can be so valuable in a playoff series. You look at past playoff runs, like a guy like Chad LaRose, what he provided. I think you see a lot of that in Jordan Martinook. So definitely, I think him keeping up his level of play would be a big positive for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Both of those guys, Seth Jarvis and Jordan Martinook, had 2-point nights, both with a goal and assist, respectively. So, for them to, be elevating their play, if they can continue that momentum heading into game 4, that's great. And I remember, I believe it was last playoffs or the playoff before. I remember them showing a shot of the bench, and he's there coaching and motivating the team on the bench. He's talking to his line mates, and that's what the Hurricanes need right now. You imagine that's probably what's happening. Yeah, well, maybe not right now, but here in a little bit, whenever they are at practice, he's gonna be out there, trying to motivate the team best he can. Like I said, he's 100% healthy now, so that's big for him, and we're seeing just what he can do when he's healthy. Because he's had a couple years where he's been hurt a lot, and you haven't seen a lot from him. So, for him to be healthy and being out there, being a big factor in this team, kind of shows why, the Hurricanes didn't send him down to Chicago, because they could have done it at any point in the season. They put him on waivers. Well, technically they did at the very start of the season, but then they called him right back up.
Yeah,
But
paper transaction.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh, but he was on the Hurricanes roster for a reason, and we're seeing it right now. But heading into game 4, you gotta feel there's gonna be some changes after this game, because, like you said, it wasn't like a 2-1 loss. This was 8-4, and it was pretty rough. So you do feel like there's might be some changes. This is something that Mike Maniscalco and Trip Tracy were talking about on the radio broadcast a lot. At the end of the game, potential changes. Mackenzie McEachern, slotting back in its lineup brings a lot of speed and physicality. Is that something you could see the Hurricanes potentially doing here in game 4? And if they do, who's the odd man out?
Yeah, I could see that. He's a guy who brings a nice spark. We saw it in game 4 against the Islanders. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, I'm not talking about him going out there and having a goal and an assist like he did in
Yeah.
that game, but just, providing a little net prep presence, little energy, speed, physicality. I would probably put him in over. I think Jesse Puljujärvi right now.
Hmm.
Um, Jesse, he's had some good play. You look at the stat sheet. He drives possession a little bit, but just haven't seen a ton from him. Hasn't been very productive. Obviously we mentioned like a guy like Martin Necas had a pretty rough game 3, but especially with the dearth of scoring right now, you're not taking Martin Necas
Yeah.
out of the lineup. The I guess the other option, I mean, the two main options if you're going to put him in would probably be Derek Stepan and Jesse Puljujärvi. And right now, I would probably take Puljujärvi out over Stepan.
Yeah, I agree there. He's definitely just, again, some good plays, here and there, and like you said, driving possession. But outside of that, hasn't really done a whole heck of a lot
Yeah.
for the Hurricanes, other than providing some good meme face material. But that's kind of about it. Yeah, I'd probably keep Stepan in as well. But another big question is who gets to start in net. We saw Frederik Andersen, we saw Pyotr Kochetkov in this game. Antti Ranta, he did come on the trip with the Hurricanes. If he's ready to go, is he the guy that the Hurricanes go with? It just feels like that's going to be a very, very big question mark. I don't really think we're going to hear anything from the Hurricanes today as far as who we could potentially see tomorrow. I honestly think that could maybe be a bit of a game time decision. Like Rod's not going to tell us tomorrow.
No, that's kind of the way he rolls in the playoffs. I can remember I think it was the Boston Eastern Conference Final in 2019, one of his pregame press conferences. I asked him, I was like, "Do you have a starting goalie for tonight?" "Yeah, we do." I was like, "Well, are you going to tell us?" I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. So, yeah, no, I think that there's a good chance that we will find out who the starting goalie is when they skate out for warmups tomorrow night, which has been the case a lot of times in the playoffs for the Hurricanes, and that's fine. I think if Antti Ranta's healthy, that could be a good way to go. Just give Frederik Andersen a little bit of a break. Because I think, what did he start? Was it 4 games in a row? They said he actually did not do that all regular season for the Hurricanes.
4 games in a row.
So if if Ranta's healthy, I would give it to him. If he's not healthy, though, then I think you've got more of a decision because do you want to give it to Pyotr Kochetkov, who really has not seen an NHL start in a while now? If Ranta's not healthy, I would probably go back to Frederik Andersen.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big question mark again. If Ranta is healthy, I do think he's the guy you go with here. Give Freddie some rest. Give Pyotr, some rest. I get, but just let them regroup. Pretty much, they had a rough night, both of them, and just let them, sit back, collect themselves, and focus on the next game that either one of them might be playing. But yeah, if Ranta isn't healthy, that is a big question mark because Freddie, that would be 5 starts in a row for him, something he hasn't done. And coming off of a rough game like that, how much of the mental factor will be there for him of like, really bad game, and kind of in their own hip. Same with Kochetkov as well. He didn't play the whole game, but not a great night at the office for him either. So that mental aspect of it, it's going to be a very, very big question. Again, not something that I think we're really going to know much on until, warm-ups. I definitely think whenever they put out the starting lineup, it's going to be TBD. That's fully what I'm expecting for tomorrow. But we're talking a lot about what Rod Brind'Amour could be doing for tomorrow. But, a big thing is, how can they bring the energy back from games 1 and 2? What can Rod Brind'Amour do? What can Jordan Martinook do? What can these guys do to bring that energy back that they had in games 1 and 2? It's a very big question because they are up in New Jersey right now. They are not in front of their home crowd, and the home crowd definitely plays a factor in these situations. But I definitely feel like the Hurricanes, to get that energy back, they just need to kind of pull in New Jersey how they did in this game. Soon as that puck drops, just immediately 100 miles an hour, just setting that tone early. I feel that is really going to be key in game 4 of setting the tone early and not giving the Devils anything like, hey, you got lucky in game 3. We're not going to roll over. You're not going to have another game like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you want to get guys out there who are going to play, simple, especially to start out, north-south hockey, get pucks in deep, crash the net, play physical, and stay committed to your structure, your team defense that they got away from in game 4, because I think this is, it's always the case in the playoffs, but I think this is another one where the first goal of the game is going to be huge, because I think if you're the Hurricanes and you get it on the road, then all of a sudden the Devils are like, oh God, like what's going to happen here? Like we're going to be down 3-1. And if you're, the Hurricanes, all of a sudden you're looking at, oh, here we go again. Are they going to run away with this one again? They're going to tie the series. So, I think similar to game 3, I think the early portion of the game is going to be really big to taking control.
Yeah, I agree. And thankfully, one thing they have already done this postseason is getting the wins on the road. They didn't do that at all last postseason. They've already
Yeah.
got that monkey off their back this postseason. Like, we know we can win on the road. And that's out of their head now. Like, we can do it. We've already done it. We literally won the first round series on the road. So that's going to be something that they can not have to worry about. But yeah, setting the tone early is going to be really big here. Keeping it simple. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to be fancy. Don't make extra passes that you don't have to make. If you get that chance, take it. That's going to be big here. And yeah, it's definitely going to be having that momentum early. That's going to be really important here. But again, we've talked a lot about Rod Brind'Amour here, plans for Game 4. Now, today's a big day for Hurricanes fans and Rod Brind'Amour because today is also the 5-year anniversary of Rod Brind'Amour being named coach, and we will give our thoughts on how that tenure has gone so far right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, if you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best protein bar ever. That is Built Bar. You gotta try it, folks. Longtime listeners, you know all about Built Bar, and Built Bars are absolutely delicious. And it's getting warm out. If you're going on a hike or whatever, Built Bar is a great snack to take with you because not only do they taste amazing, they are good for you. And new folks, you got to be asking yourself, what makes Built Bars so good? Well, they are covered in 100% real dark chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, cookies and cream, and my personal favorite, peanut butter brownie. And Built Bars, again, are extremely healthy with only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can go on their website, built.com, find a flavor for everyone. And if you don't want to wait, you can go to your local Walmart and Sam's Club right now to get you some. You can head over to Walmart, pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream and double chocolate or coconut puff. I would personally go with the double chocolate there. That's a really good one. And if you're close to Sam's Club, you can run in and grab a 13-bar box with brownie batter puff and churro puff. That's absolutely amazing flavors, though. If you got a Sam's Club membership, go get that one. And of course, if none of those interest you, you can go over to built.com where they have a bunch of flavors, something for everyone. So go get your Built Bars today. Now, diving back into Rod Brind'Amour, 5 years ago today, he was officially named the Carolina Hurricanes head coach, replacing Bill Peters. After the Hurricanes got bought by Tom Dundon, Don Waddell's put in, replacing Ron Francis as GM, and this was at the time. I was kind of saying, I feel like Rod Brind'Amour, you should name him the head coach. I was saying that 5 years ago, and it has paid off in spades. He's a player's coach. The players want to play for him. He knows how to connect with these guys. He knows what it takes to win. He's been on 3 Stanley Cup final teams, won one of them, and he knows what it takes to win, and he knows how to connect with these players. And that is absolutely one of the biggest things, for him as a head coach, in my opinion, that has made him successful. He knows what he's talking about, and the players know that he knows what he's talking about. He's not, a guy, that just, kind of studied the analytics and whatnot, made his way up to head coach. Like, no, everything he's telling you to do, he's done it. He knows what he's talking about. And that's really big for the Hurricanes. And, from day one of his head coaching tenure, didn't get off to a great start. We all remember that. But they got it going, and it has gone honestly better than anyone could have expected.
Definitely better than I could have expected. I was kind of the opposite at the time. I was kind of like, I didn't like it when they announced the move. I was kind of, I was like, this guy has no experience as a head coach at any level. You just fired Ron Francis. Do you really want to elevate another franchise legend into a position where maybe that's going to be something you have to do one day? But I was proven very, very wrong. I mean, for everything you just said, everything that made him great as a player has made him great as a head coach, as a leader, being able to connect with these guys, knowing the right buttons to push. We've really, he's got another challenge ahead of him in game 4, but like with the injuries that they've faced in these playoffs, I think we've really seen that from him in terms of making the right adjustments to kind of maximize what he can get from a shorthanded group. And, I think the whole no experience thing, I think actually ends up being a positive, because a lot of times you're seeing guys get these jobs that like they've already been fired from one or more jobs as an NHL head coach. And it's like, well, why not give somebody new an opportunity? And I think the Hurricanes and Tom Dundon, especially, who's, noted as kind of not being your quote unquote hockey guy, operating with that mindset has worked out really well. One of Rod Brind'Amour's first things he said, was that he wanted to make this team relevant again, and he's done that. I mean, they're a consistent playoff team. They're a consistent contender. They're mentioned among the top teams in the league consistently. You look at the things that they've been able to have because of that, like the Stadium Series game. And I said this to somebody at some point this season, but if you look at like this millennium, like the 2000 years that start with the 2, with what Rod Brind'Amour's done as a Hurricane now, as a coach, and what he did as a player, as a captain, winning the Stanley Cup, you could make the argument that very few, if any, singular people have made as big an impact on one franchise than Rod Brind'Amour has made with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, 110% agree there. If someone's getting a statue out front of PNC Arena, it's him.
And he would hate that so much too.
Oh yeah, I know. He's like, everyone wants it. He's probably the reason it hasn't happened. Like, he would not want that. But you look back to that trade in the early 2000s with Philly, like everything that has happened since then, got the team to 2 Stanley Cup finals, as a player, one captain, the winning one, won back-to-back Selke trophies, and just everything he did as a player. And then he moves into the front office, and then now he's the head coach. Like, he's been a Hurricane for over 20 years. He's been here for almost everything that has happened in Raleigh. And it's honestly, you take all of that into consideration, player, coach, everything. It's a trade that is still paying off to this day, over 20 years later. And it definitely comes to mind of just taking everything into consideration. It's got to be one of the best trades that the Hurricanes have ever made. And maybe one of the best in NHL history, with just how much it has paid off through everything. Like, you think of the Carolina Hurricanes, you think of Rod Brind'Amour, and everything he has done as head coach. He's already holding records. I feel like a lot of folks probably are already making the argument for him, as the best coach in franchise history. And I think the one thing that he needs to really cement that now is to win a Stanley Cup as a head coach. He does that.
Yeah,
there's no argument.
I agree. Yeah, I think anybody who wants to give it to Peter Laviolette right now because he won who was Rod Brind'Amour's head coach, because he won that Stanley Cup, it's tough to argue. But yeah, what if Rod gets it, then there's no discussion or debate anymore.
Yeah, there's no debate. He's already a lot of people feel the best player in franchise history, and he can put that feather in his cap as a head coach. There's nothing. He turned this franchise around, made them relevant again, made them a consistent winner, and has won the Jack Adams, coached back-to-back All-Star teams, and he has really defied all expectations that folks had for him coming in as head coach. And maybe one of the best moves that the front office has ever made, as far as coaching and anything like that. And it's something that I think the Hurricanes will continue to. They're not going to want to move away from him as head coach. They're going to want to continue to have him here and not let any other team get a hold of him as a head coach, because look at what he did for us. You want him to do that for someone else?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I think he's here to stay.
Yeah, he's here to stay. He is Carolina Hurricanes through and through. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the next 5 years. Hopefully, we can not have any debate on whether it's him, Peter Laviolette, the few folks that may still say Paul Maurice and all that. Hopefully, before too long, he'll undoubtedly be the greatest head coach in franchise history. And I feel he does that, wins a Stanley Cup as a head coach and a player here. I don't think anyone else could take his title of greatest Carolina Hurricane.
No, I agree for sure.
But we got game 4 tomorrow, and that's going to be really, really fun. And we'll come to you guys with previewing that game tomorrow. And hopefully it's a lot more positive than this one. Hopefully we got a game plan for the Hurricanes and what they can do just to come away with the win. And we will also give our thoughts on the other playoff series going on right now. That's something we haven't done yet this playoffs. And we will do all that tomorrow. Make sure you are following myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96 and following the show on Twitter at LO_Hurricanes. And Andrew, where can the folks find you?
You can find me at ASCHNITT53. Shout out Jeff Skinner. That's the tribute when I made that Twitter account in high school. So yeah, you can find all my thoughts there.
Yep. And don't forget to also subscribe to the show on YouTube, folks. And we will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, let's go Canes.